Okay, I'm gonna try my last gasp at see if I can get this thing to work with the latest change I made. I don't know how good it's gonna be, but I'm gonna try it. So we're gonna see if it powers up and everything will work. Right here I'm getting the low voltage alert on battery 2, which is a new problem.
Pause system test. Okay.
Here I'm calling up the voltage information on the MFD and looking on the PFD, both of which are giving me a low voltage alert on battery 2. I increased the RPM of the engine, and if I got over about 15 to 1600 RPM, the low voltage alert went away, which made me think maybe the battery 2 had drained down. I decided to do the run-up right here in front of the hangar and keep the engine running at 1700 to 2000 RPM, hoping that I would be charging up the battery and get rid of this low voltage alert, and that would end the problem, thinking that the airplane had sat for a while. So you can see I'm keeping the engine running faster than I normally would to see if the problem goes away. Here I'm transferring some data from my iPad to the airplane database. All the time the airplane is running faster than I normally would on the ground in the hopes that I'm charging up the battery. You'll see in a minute it didn't work, but that's what I'm doing with it running and why I have the database page open on the MFD. You can see me pointing at the MFD, and I'm getting a yellow battery 2 low voltage alert. I've been running the airplane at over 1500 RPMs on the ground for over 12 minutes, and the alert's still not going away. When I slow the engine down, the alert comes right back, and I'm looking at the various readings on the MFD as I go through a elongated run-up. Okay, now I'm starting to taxi out, checking the flaps, making sure everything's okay. It's now been almost 15 minutes of running the airplane on the ground, which is not particularly good for it. So I need to fly it and see if I can solve this problem. But you can still see the battery 2 low voltage alert when I slow the airplane down in the lower corner of the MFD. Plus I'm getting a flashing caution light. As I begin to taxi out to runway 4, you'll notice I get another caution warning and a bell for the battery 2 low voltage alert. And here I am taxiing out to runway 4, and you can see that the low battery 2 low voltage continues to come on, and I'm frustrated with it, and it's been almost 20 minutes on the ground. So I don't know what is causing it at this point. Right before takeoff, I do another run-up and mag check just to make sure that I don't have any fouled out plugs, and the airplane's ready to go except for the nagging low voltage alert. And we'll see that I don't have any problem and I'm ready to go. right before liftoff, you notice I've got all the EGT and CHT showing, and I want to make sure that I don't have any engine problems. I'm watching all the gauges very, very carefully, and now I'm checking the alternator charging percent, and you'll see that the number 2 alternator is going to be running very high in just a second. Okay, here I'm switching over to Cherry Point departure. The airplane motor seems to be running fine. I'm not noticing any anomalies yet, but in a minute you're going to see me start looking at the XM weather products and looking at the auxiliary page, and I notice a problem popping up there. Once again, although you can't read it, the number 2 alternator is running at a very high load. Okay, here you notice now I'm going over to the map and weather page, and I don't see any weather information showing up. And I'm looking at what's going on here, and I flipped through several pages, and there's no weather information. So something else is wrong. It's not making any sense to me right then. Okay, I found XM weather, and there's nothing showing up. I've got a strong signal. I just don't have any weather system, so I don't know if the radio has lost its memory, or it is broken, or it is somewhere tied to this voltage problem. But I don't have any XM weather, but I do have the ADSB weather on my iPad, and I can show it on that. But there's another problem I'm trying to diagnose, and I'm messing with the iPad now to make sure there's weather on it. Here I go over to the weather page, and you can see on the screen it says it's trying to activate the signal. Now, is it actually asking for activation, or does it mean I have to activate the signal, which naturally I cannot do in the air? So I'm studying that, and then I switch over and I go to ADSB weather to make sure the weather itself is working, and it is. I come up with a brilliant idea to see if the XM music works, and I turn on one of the stations, and indeed I am able to listen to music, which tells me the radio receiver is working. There's just some problem with the weather report. So I can listen to old goldies, but I can't get any weather. So I don't understand the problem. All right, here you can see I'm not getting any reception on the XM weather. I'm looking at the various alternator charging. Number 2 alternator is still high. Everything else seems to be working okay. I'm coming up on Pungo, going to head out towards Lake Mattamuskeet. And at this point I'm talking to Cherry Point. Naturally, all this time the autopilot's on, because I've been paying a lot of attention to the panel, and I've just been flying in a straight line, basically northeast of Oriental. Okay, I continue to monitor everything, but I'm deciding to turn around from Lake Mattamuskeet, which you can see out the front window, head back to Pungo, and then back into New Bern to do a little bit more practice. I noticed that I'm starting to get an XM weather reception for some reason that is beyond me, and evidently it did reacquire the signal. And I go back and I turn to the weather page, and you'll see that all of a sudden I'm getting the weather products that I normally have wanted. There come the clouds. So something changed, something got better. minutes later, I asked Cherry Point for vectors for practice ILS into runway 4, and I'm busy setting that up. I want to make sure that the rest of the autopilot functions and the data functions in the airplane are working correctly. And you'll see me set up for the ILS here. All right, now I'm going in, getting ready for the ILS, and you'll see a triangle and then a yellow ball pop up and an alert on my iPad saying I've got a traffic conflict at my same altitude. That was exciting. I called Cherry Point and said, hey, I've got a traffic conflict at my same altitude, and the young lady working the tower said that was a military helicopter below me, and that I had good separation. And you notice that it just all of a sudden went away. So the Marines were out playing around near me. We skip ahead and you can see she's vectored me into the final approach course. You can see the localizer starting to come in, and what I'm trying to check and see if the autopilot will capture the localizer and the glide path and guide me safely into the airport, which it does. Here I'm intercepting the glide slope and over the marker, going gear down, 3 in the green, and proceeding down the glide slope into the airport. Fixing to land, come over the end of the runway at 81, 82 knots, and 3 in the green, full flaps, fixing to pull the power back and make my first landing. I did 3 touch and goes, and actually 3 stop and goes, just to see how the airplane reacted. Okay, here we are taking off again on runway 4. Speed's alive, and everything is operating pretty normally here, and we're going to go ahead and rotate, and we go around the pattern 3 more times and then go back to the hangar. Taxiing back to the hangar, I did not get a low voltage alert for battery 2, and the number 2 alternator was working correctly. I did a battery test on the standby attitude indicator. You can see it flashing as I taxi back, and it was okay. So I'm not sure what all these things are saying. I'm going to go out and try it again Monday and see if all the settings and everything hold. Or do I have some other electrical gremlin that I'm not aware of? Nothing working except I'm worried about the number 2 battery. I don't know if it's a voltage regulator or what. Signing off.